Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Magical Monday Musing for the week of February 16th, 2015. This week, we're going to be trying a new format, as I mentioned in my latest email blast to you, where in an effort to make the most of what the Magical Monday Musing is, I'm going to have put in writing the actual readings from the Wildwood Tarot and the Spiritual Tarot, which are the two resources we work with every week, about the cards that we pick. And then what I will do is do the intuitive part via the video for you. So the time that we spend here is going to be crystallized around me tuning in and working off of the tarot archetypes and messages to give to you messages this week that I'm feeling intuitively for the audience that congregates today. So we're going to be working a little bit differently, but I think it'll be more streamlined for us so that you can read what the books have to say, and then we can tune in and do our meditation here and start working on the actual messages that Spirit and the cards themselves want to give you. So just a little recap before we begin about last week and the Green Man and Emperor. And I did talk to a number of you about how those influences shaped your week. And they were really, I sound like a broken record, but really very beneficial and like in my face. So I found really grappling with doing a lot of thinking and noticing myself in terms of my relationship with my own power and getting to know myself in some ways and to see where my edges are and what happens with that. And there were a couple of situations where it just really, it was one of those things where it was so big that I just had to do the best I could with it, which is part of our human experience, right? And part of what these cards teach us. So the Green Man, I did want to read just a little bit from that because I know for myself and a number of you, this particular piece was very alive. And so just underscoring that before we move on, because I think that for some of us, this is going to continue to be a force in our lives, especially as we move into someday in New England warmer weather. We have another storm coming, or by the time you see this, it will have passed. I have to shoot this a little ahead so you'll get it. But so we could be having another foot on top of what we've already had. But the point that I want to read for you about the Green Man is, the Green Man is generous in his bestowal of creative, fertile energy, and he will move you to a new level of confident and assertive dynamism. This is a time for both giving and receiving the natural flow of life, both inwardly and outwardly. Be prepared to find a new and thriving drive to begin projects, relationships, and even new ways of living your life and fulfilling your world, which couldn't have been more spot on for me this week. This whole new in the way that I want to work with it, but something that's been building inside for a long time has come about with us moving into the little house. And it's really about, from it are going to come a number of new videos, but it's about, I guess the phrases I'm using are just a life of simplicity and really this little life and living close to what matters. And so I've been really reevaluating that. And I think even more than reevaluating it, I've come to a place of really wanting to live very differently than we have. And so this 2-year period that we have in the little house is going to give us opportunity to review and to start moving in some new directions. And of course, this is me. You know, my partner and my family, these are all discussions that will be up and coming, but I could so much feel the Green Man working through me because many of the whole point of the new focus is living more simply with Earth and with the green world, with the wildwood. So I look forward to showing you more about that in the weeks to come. So you'll see some of those things coming up shortly. But for today, we are working with, I've picked the card Knight of Vessels, an eel for us, out of the Wildwood Tarot. And the corresponding card from the Spiritual Tarot is the Knight of Cups. So, as has been the way with us quite frequently, we are working with what else but emotions in the cups again, in the vessels. So the Knight, we're dealing with the royalty again, but a lesser version. When we get to the page in the Knight, we're dealing with the less developed of the archetypes. And so there's still some mastery to be achieved through that archetype of the Knight. A lot of courage, a lot of bravado, a lot of headstrongness, but doesn't have that maturity necessarily that, say, the King does, that we've been working with so frequently in the past. But I'm going to read just the reading point from the book, and then we're going to go ahead and get into our meditation. And the meditation now will prepare us for the message work instead of the picking of the card. So it's going to work a little bit differently, but we'll still get into our sacred space and do our work in the same way. So the reading points are: with purity of intent, your destiny defined, you are able to bring wisdom and maturity to your tasks. Embarking on a quest of personal revelation, your vision leads you onward. Your deep feelings are expressed at every turn. So with that in mind, I'd invite you now to just close your eyes, bring yourself into your physical comfort in whatever way that is, whether it's reclining or in a seated position, and allow yourself to take 3 deep breaths in and out. And with each breath, allow yourself to come into greater awareness of your body and of this present moment. Allowing yourself to make that transition from your external to your internal world. Bringing your attention into your own heart center, the place where your own deep wisdom resides. Letting your breath settle you more and more deeply into that place, releasing any thoughts that might be distracting. Letting go of any physical discomforts. Letting go of anything that would take you away from being able to focus here and now on your intentions. So know that in the same way that I have chosen the card for this week and opened and asked for Spirit to guide me to the card that will bring us the most wisdom and guidance for each of us on our individual journeys. I ask at this time that as you settle in, come into the moment, that you would, from your place of deep knowingness, open to the intentions that you have this week. What is it that you'd like to create, or what kind of space would you like to embody as you move through your daily rounds in the coming week? And get a sense of that, a felt sense of that in your body. Enjoying the feeling of possibility and of truth. Feeling that as a real thing within you. And at this time we invite in the grounded presence of the earth, the 4 directions and elements, calling in ancestors and loved ones from the spirit realms that wish to contribute in a positive way to our session today. Inviting in the angelic realms, ascended master teachers, guide beings, star beings, the forces of light and illumination. and the forces of the lower, middle, and upper worlds that are all aware of our life journeys here and wish to help us to live to our greatest potentials. We also call on the archetypes and the energies of the cards themselves, the Knight of Vessels, Eel, and the Knight of Cups this week. And so with one more additional deep breath, in and out, I invite you to gently open your eyes and come into this space now where we will work intuitively. So this week I have a sense of, for some of you, it may be feeling, you may be feeling a little stretched thin emotionally. There may be forces within your world this week that are bringing you to a place that I certainly can recall from when we moved into this house, where it just seemed like there was so much sort of weighing or pressing and things that from different areas of your life that you feel like you need to attend to, and you might, some of you be feeling a little bit maxed out. You might be feeling yourself a little more moody or edgy and feeling irritable. Part of this has to do with kind of that final push as we're moving through the last of the winter months, and there's that feeling of the waning of the winter and that gestation or that rise or that movement up, literally, that rebirthing energy, you know, as we are starting to more and more feel the shift, the longer daylight, the shorter dark periods of darkness. But there's this thing of there's a phrase that comes to mind from a Lorena McKennitt song that goes like, let's see, nature seems so weary now, nature seems so weary now, her path is nearly ended. I think that's how it goes. And it's about the idea that when you're coming to the end of the thing, you know, the end of the season, you can feel that, you know. And so I have a sense of some of you, it's impacted because of the season, but that's not the only factor involved. Some of it is with where relationships are feeling stretched or feeling old in a way, or there needs to be some reinvigoration to them, or there needs to be some new creativity brought to how you work in relation with others, or again, where a relationship could be stagnant and you need to enliven it, come to it with, you know, your beginner's mind, as I like to say, that part of you that is ever available, but that we don't call on as often as maybe would be good for us, because we get so used to our routines and we get into those modes of being, those repetitive modes of being, and it requires effort, doesn't it? It requires effort to be fresh and to show up and to be invigorated. And you know, that often runs counter to our typical human nature of just wanting to get into a situation, you know, feather the nest, be comfortable, feel secure, and then just have it stay like that forever, you know. But that isn't why we're here, and that's not what life is about. So this week you may be getting a sense of that in terms of relationship, or even with job. I have a sense of some of you who are going to be watching this week are looking at making changes in career and are feeling, again, reminds me of, like, I'm seeing little seeds inside hearts that are starting to, green shoots are starting to just barely poke their heads out. And I feel like this has to do with those of you that are feeling change inside about how you want to show up creatively in the world and make money and manifest, and how you want to receive. You know, that's that giving and receiving part that's part of this card this week, the eel. And you know, the eel, if you think about the medicine of the eel, there's a lot of it, but one thing I'm seeing right now as I speak is, you know, how it moves and how it's a winnowy creature, and you know, it's obviously a creature that is water-based, and so, you know, we're dealing with emotions, feelings, creativity. So where can you get behind that this week? What can you do this week to really get in that water and move. And sometimes when we work shamanically, a tool that we often use is to embody the power medicine. So, or the power animal or the totem, all of those words relate to the same principle. But the idea of how can you let yourself be more fluid, sinewy? How can you go sort of, with the flow and that creative flow? Where is it that you can invite some of that kind of energy into your week as far as what you're doing with work? Like I'm tuning into, there's a few of you this week that may come into either the word would be confrontation or conflict, or where someone, I'm tuning into somebody here that it's either a coworker or someone that you have to deal with professionally that's typically quite stubborn or a stick in the mud, or someone who is almost combative or resistant to change, or things that you, being more of a visionary or being more flexible, being more innovative, being more willing to see more sides. I will use the word compromise, but it could also be like synthesize. You have the ability to be more forward thinking than this person. And so how can you work with the eel with that? How can you work with this energy this week to help make this a more fluid experience for you? Because remember, we've talked about before how when you hold the space, when you dictate the orientation, even just the healing and the awareness and what you give yourself in doing that is enough to stimulate being that pebble in the pond for others too. So someone that can be very stick in the muddish, I'll just say, or rigid, I guess is another great word. You can work, think of that rigidness, that stick in the mud, and then you've got the eel that can move in and around that. And that doesn't hold you back at all. That doesn't need to be a problem for you at all. So if you run up against that this week, remember that we're talking about it now. Just remember that eel. Eels can be very fierce too. But they know when's the time to pull that out and when's the time to just move and be creative. And my son used to study Aikido, and one of the primary principles of Aikido is that you're not trying to confront a force. You work with it, and then oftentimes you take that force and move it back towards its origin. So, where can you be fluid with forces of opposition? Where can you, instead of taking on that mantle of opposition, where can you learn to work with the energy or give it back to the sender if need be too? And that's a principle of witchcraft as well. There's understandings of how to work energetically with challenge and conflict. So I would invite you this week to look at, in your meditations and your journaling, if you are running into forces that seem blocked or stagnant, or that have a resistance to something that you, as the innovator, as the legacy holder and builder, want to create, see how you can work with that through meditation. If you know something's coming up and there's somebody that you need to deal with, go into meditation first and write about it as well. So two parts, you can meditate about the desired outcome, hold the energy and space of that. And so you create an energetic container before you actually do any physical connecting with that person or communicating, and see it resolved in the way that, creates harmony. And the other thing is, through writing, you can do the same thing. You can write about the potential outcome and see it happening in the past already. So you write about it as if it's already happened, and you describe it in a lot of detail. So those are two different, one witchcraft, the meditation, and shamanic orientation about working with the energetics of a situation. Okay, so let's see what else. So some of you are going to be getting into a space where it's almost like you feel like you're regressing, like, oh my gosh, I feel like I should have been there, done that. Haven't I been there, done that? But around emotional things that still, there's some work to do. So it's not anything to feel troubled about or like judge yourself or feel like, oh, I can't believe I'm back at this again. Or old feelings. I feel like this week some of you are going to come into some situations around old feelings coming up to be recognized and So not feeling limited by them, but feeling like, there's something else for me here. And that has to do with the ways that you handle some either disappointments or things that it has a feeling of almost like regression to it, like feeling like a setback or like a repeat in some way. So some of you are going to be dealing with what might initially feel like a disappointment, but then once you understand, and if you can remember this, that it's nothing of the kind. It's an opportunity to dig in a little deeper and see how you want to do it this time. So there's that, again, as we work with a spiral, as we always talk about, is an opportunity to, if something should revisit you this week, know that the point of it is to do something with it this time. And you may have to interrupt your thinking and not go into this sort of that knee-jerk reactionary mode, but just say, yeah, I know what this is. I know this, I was warned about this, or this was something that I remember, and maybe you come back and you listen to this segment again and just really kind of work with it consciously and deliberately. So know that that's just part and parcel of our spiritual growth, But I also feel like there are those of you that when you have this revisiting experience, you're going to take it to a whole nother level, like a place that is beyond where you've ever been. So it kind of reminds me of, like seeing the stone coming back in the slingshot and it being shot so far beyond where it's ever been. So know that this week is providing you with opportunities to work with things differently. Part of the Knight of Cups is, reevaluating like how you've done things and how you can do them differently in terms of like that emotional piece or how you run things through your psyche, etc. And so for some of you, there's going to be a really great opportunity to really knock a situation out of the park. And you're going to have that clarity now. You're going to have a new like baseline of clarity about no longer seeing things as, I wish this wasn't what it was to deal with, So it's as though you're really going to be able to initiate your baseline being at a different place than it has been before when you encounter something that on first blush might be like, oh, really? So that could potentially be really exciting for some of you. Let me see if there's anything else that wants to come through before we close. So the last thing that Spirit wants to say is this week is a good week to have a sense of humor. I almost feel like that's kind of like a warning, like, okay. But to bring ourselves into a place of not getting too wrapped up into, I have to have this or else, or it has to go this way or else. Where can we sit back in our journey and where can we be less attached to outcome and more invested in the moment and the unfoldment of that? And having a good sense of humor this week and remembering to laugh is going to help to seal in that perspective more for us. So that lightening up. Especially like when I talked about earlier, that waning energy that we're dealing with, it can feel kind of draggy and it can feel kind of blah, and so it just feels almost depleted in a way. So whether you watch something funny on TV, read something funny, read the comics, or be around people that make you laugh, or just remind yourself that this isn't the week to be taking everything so seriously. Let me lighten up a little bit about things and let me know that this is the week where I can make some shifts in the heaviness of maybe how I have in my journey work, how I have maybe held myself back a little bit with getting too rooted, too opinionated, or too in love with your own agenda kind of thing, and see where you can loosen up a little bit around that. So the Knight of Vessels, Eel, the Knight of Cups are guiding us this week. And as always, you can reach me on my Facebook page, Deb D'Onofrio, or circlemagica.com. If you aren't getting these weekly emails and you would like to, just go to subscribe at Circle Magica, and you'll be added into our Circle Magica community, so you make sure you get this to your inbox every week. And I just wish you the ability to stay aware in the moment so that you can be cognizant of the teachings that are coming to you, and that you can use them to the full extent that they're available to you this week. So as always here at Circle Magica, I just wish you a powerful and magical week, and I look forward to talking to you again on next Monday for the next issue of our Magical Monday Musing. So blessed be.